The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Leela Rhodes and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NetCom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, an introduction to ITIL 4, Create, Deliver, and Support. Presenting today's topic is Soumik Das. Soumik is a project management subject matter expert with over 15 years of progressive experience in project and service delivery management. His focus areas include task tracking, team management, client interaction, and problem solving. He possesses vast knowledge of the latest project management tools. As a dynamic instructor and consultant, Soumik follows a unique method of mentoring. He is always explaining concepts by demonstrating the latest problem-solving techniques, which helps his students understand and learn the basics. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. If you're interested in a further discussion about any of those, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at www.netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. NetCom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adopting change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the business process practice area. NetCom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio for business process courses. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on ITIL 4 Foundation with certification exam, CDS with certification exam, overview of ITIL 4 Foundation to Expert, and many more. Private training to teams is also available, and those learning plans can be customized to the specific needs of that audience. You can also access a variety of business marketing assets, such as our free 1-hour training, free on-demand training, and blogs by clicking on the available webinar handout. These offerings can also be found with a simple search on our website at www.netcomlearning.com. In this webinar, we will explore overall understanding of service quality and improvement methods to design and manage the operation of IT-enabled digital products and services, and much more. And now I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick overview of the logistics before we do get started today. To start with, you have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. You can simply hit the escape key and find the Zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters, but you can feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters in the questions panel, and we will address them at the end of the session today. Also, to get the best out of today's session, we've included the slides, courses we've talked about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer, and you can refer to those to get a better understanding of the topic. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass the time over to Soumik to present. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, Leela. Thank you very much. And thank you for the introduction.
Thank you for joining us.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. Is the screen visible?
It is. It's not in full screen mode, but it is visible. There we go.
Perfect. Okay. Welcome, everyone, on today's session for the introduction of ITIL 4 CDS. When we talk about create, deliver, and support, essentially, this is going to be one of the advanced level courses within the ITIL structure. So we're going to go ahead and take some time today to go ahead and understand what exactly the CDS try and convey or try and cover, which are the roles that are supposed to go ahead and get into this certification. So let's start the session. First things first, when we look into the ITIL structure, we are supposed to go ahead and start with the ITIL 4 foundation. Then there are two chunks that you can go ahead and move up to. One is the managing professional, and the one is going to be the strategic leadership. When we talk about managing professional, in here we have 4 certifications that are available to anyone. This includes CDS, which is create, deliver, and support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, and direct and plan improvement. When we talk about, especially when we talk about the serious one, the create, deliver, and support module, this is something which is supposed to go ahead and cover the integration of number of proven areas of what we might know as IT areas of working. So from the point of designing IT services to building and testing the IT services, running them, launching them, all from, practically speaking, from the point where you go ahead and conceive about a new IT service till the point you go ahead and deliver the IT services. That entire service value chain is going to be covered under CDS, which is going to be create, deliver, and support. Now, coming to the other question, which is also one of the burning questions from most of the participants, who's supposed to go ahead and take this certification? Who are the right role? What are the right people? What are the right roles that are supposed to go ahead and go through this? But before that, let me go ahead and take one more point about what precisely is going to be covered within the CDS. So those who are already aware of the ITIL Foundation, because practically speaking, when we talk about the CDS part, it is one of the prerequisite to appear for a CDS examination is that you have to be very much aware and must be certified with the ITIL Foundation thing. So since I'm assuming that most of you are already aware of the foundation part, so let me go ahead and talk about the service value chain here. The reason why I'm going to go ahead and talk about the service value chain is because within the service value chain, the CDS is going to go ahead and take care of this chunk. This chunk, when I say, it includes essentially those service chain or value chain components which are essentially involved in creating, delivering, and developing the services. So when we talk about obtain and build, when we talk about design and transition, when we talk about deliver and support, primarily these are the value chain elements that are supposed to be, or that are primarily be covered within CDS. Now, the next question, who's going to be the right audience for this? So the target audience for CDS are essentially going to be those entities or those roles or those practitioners who are involved at any stage of product and service lifecycle. People who are primarily involved in managing the services, like service owners role, product owners, project managers, business owners, or people who are going ahead and managing any specific processes, like process owners or process managers. When we talk about the specific terms that are going to be involved, so the terms that are primarily going to be involved or who can go for this certification can be the IT operations manager, the availability manager, the service desk managers, people who are into designing and developing the service architecture. So service architects, security manager, technology support teams, user experience, user interface designers, development managers, developers. So practically speaking, anyone and everyone who is involved in designing, managing, and delivering of services can be part of this. Now, when we talk about CDS, CDS can broadly be divided in two chunks. First is going to be the organization and culture part, and the other half is going to be the value chain part. So when we talk about the organization and culture that we go ahead and cover in deep within this particular certification. So organization and culture is covered because of a simple fact that the entire development and delivery process of any service is going to be based on how exactly the organization perceive, how exactly the development culture is within the organization. So culture is going to be a critical factor in the creation, delivery, and supply of products and services. And when we talk about culture and organization perspectives, essentially we are trying to go ahead and cover aspects like team, culture, and collaboration. So how exactly the development team is going ahead and collaborating and coming together, what approaches they are using to go ahead and develop and deliver the new services or products that they are designing, what is the level of communication that is happening amongst the team members, amongst the stakeholders, between the team members and the stakeholders, what is the approach of customer orientation, and what is the organization structure, what kind of organization that you're working in. Is it like a functional organization, is it a projectized organization, what is the layers within the organization, how precisely the roles and the responsibilities are being documented and defined within the organization. Um, Culture for service providers. So essentially, when we talk about or when we use the word service provider, we all essentially falls under the category of service provider. Why? We are being part of IT organization, being part of an organization segment where we are going ahead and delivering or trying to deliver some value to our customers, to our users. We simply go ahead and consider ourselves to be the one who's trying to go ahead and deliver some kind of service here. Like, let's take an example. In this scenario, in this entire webinar, we trying to go ahead and provide you a service of providing knowledge through this webinar. So we are acting as a service provider here. So what kind of culture is expected from the service provider? So service provider organizations go ahead and focus on value creation. So key word here that we go ahead and focus on is the word value. Remember, someone who's involved in the designing, developing, delivering of services and products. Our primary objective, always remember, our primary objective is to go ahead and focus on how much value we are able to go ahead and deliver to our customers. That's going to be the core, that's going to be the central point of focus. Business will not go ahead and communicate with us using technical terms. Even if we have to go ahead and communicate with the business, the only language that we can use to make sure the business is positively engaged, positively involved, that's going to be value. End of the day, when we talk about the service value chain, when we talk about this SVS, the service value system, end of the day, the service value system is going to go ahead and end up with value, which essentially means that if we are not able to go ahead and deliver that, we are not able to meet the objective. So as a service provider, make sure you go ahead and focus on value, quality, and operational excellence. You need to go ahead and focus on client, customer, and consumer orientation, because they are the one who's gonna actually define the value for you. So remember, you being the service provider, you need to be very clear about the definition of value. But are you the one who define the value? No. The definition is always going to be given to you by the customer. Now, the customer can be internal, the customer can be external. I'm not going to go ahead and get into that nitty-gritty at this point in time. But you need to understand that whatever the customer is, internal, external, within the organization, outside the organization, they're the one who's primarily going to be involved in defining the value for you. Next, investment in people and communications and collaboration tools. Another keyword that we need to go ahead and focus, collaboration. We are not going ahead and talking about just sending an email. Sending an email, it's half the job done. You simply going ahead and sending a report to someone, that's half the job done. When we talk about collaboration, it is, first of all, it is supposed to be a two-way flow. Second, it essentially involves a simple fact that you are confirming, as someone who's a sender for information, you're confirming that the receiver have not just received, but understood the information that is being transferred to them as well. So collaboration essentially means, again, people who are already covered the ITIL foundation, they need to know when we talk about value creation. Yes, I just now said that as a service provider, you need to go ahead and focus on value, but also understand you may not be able to go ahead and deliver value until and unless the customers, the stakeholders are not actually going ahead and defining it for you. So value creation is going to be a collaborative work. It's going to be the term that we normally use in ITIL is we co-create value. The service provider and the service consumer co-creates value. Next thing is going to be the strong team composition within a structured organization. So how well you go ahead and define your team. Understand, when we say defining the team, we are talking about the team for designing, developing the services and products that are in question. So in here, we are not expecting you to have a very big team size. We're expecting you to have probably a smaller team size, getting resources who are collaborative, who are generalized specialists, who have detailed understanding about one particular aspect, but at the same time are not reluctant or not refusing to go ahead and talk about or taking ownership on other aspects as well. So expectation is the team is willing to learn, willing to contribute. And the last point, continuous alignment throughout the development. Continuously keeping an eye that whatever was the business vision or business goals or business objectives, the service that we are creating, the product that we are developing, is this in line with the business vision? This can happen with continuous feedback. So normally when we talk about the development cycle of a product or service, we recommend that you go ahead and break it down. Break it down into smaller chunks so that you can go ahead and collect feedback from your stakeholders as early as possible. Now, guidelines for strong team culture. First thing, create a bigger vision around great team culture. So make sure that the vision, the overall vision that you're going ahead, it's being created around the team culture. Meet regularly. Though I agree, considering the current situation, a face-to-face meeting may not be possible. But even in that scenario, have meetings on a frequent basis. And my personal recommendation, if you're starting new, if the team is new into the whole development cycle, spend some time in the very beginning of the development cycle, spend some time talking or discussing about something which is not very focused on the project or the product or the technology side. That's going to go ahead and help as managers, as leaders. That's going to actually help you break the ice within the team. Create leaders more than managers. So also act like a leader. Try and go ahead and give the responsibility. Let the team take the ownership. Give them the option. Let them fail. Go ahead, let them fail. Of course, also make sure that all the failures that is happening, that is being documented and are not being repeated. But let the team innovate. Let the team find new and better ways to go ahead and do things which are already being supposed to perform. Encourage informal teams. Cross-train employees. Make sure you avoid or you try to take care of situations where you can end up in a bottleneck because of lack of resources with skill sets. You don't want to be dependent on one resource who is the only one who is aware of that particular technology. So avoid that kind of scenario in your projects. Integrating socially. So avoid, in the beginning especially, avoid just talking about the project and project technologies. Spend some time talking about things which are not very specific to the project. Go ahead and talk about each other, what all the team members like, what they don't like, where they want to go for their next vacation, things of that sort. Regularly seek feedback. Provide feedback, whether it is positive, whether it is negative, whatever it is, good, bad, ugly, go ahead, talk about it. A personal recommendation, when we talk about feedbacks, I always tend to follow a approach that you praise in public and you criticize in private. The reason why I prefer praising in public is because you want to go ahead and let all the other participants know that this is the kind of behavior that we are expecting. And criticizing in private avoids a scenario where the resource is going to feel humiliated. You don't want a situation, because see, when we talk about the development cycle, when we talk about creating, developing, delivering, we want our resources to be always innovative. We don't want them to just come to office, prepare a list of activities, just check that activity list, that this is what is supposed to be done, this is what is done, now I'm going back home. You don't want that. What you want is people who are contributing. You want people to go ahead and question the decisions that you have made so that they can go ahead and positively contribute. And promote a culture of learning. Conflicts are good. Remember, conflicts are good if they are in a healthy environment. Communication principles. When we talk about the entire CDS cycle, there will be a lot of communication that you need to go ahead and manage. So certain principles that you want to probably focus on. First, communication is a two-way process. When you're sending an information, that's partial communication. We are all communicating all the time. So practically speaking, as per a survey done by one of the major project management organizations, a project manager or someone who's leading the development work spends somewhere around 60 to 70% of their time communicating. So you being the one who's involved in or who's primarily managing the delivery or development cycle of the product or service, you will be spending a lot of time communicating with your resources, with your stakeholders. Stakeholders will be communicating amongst each other. Resources will be communicating amongst each other. So remember, it's something which is happening very frequently, and thus is going to be considered as one of the most critical aspects. Timing and frequency matters. What to communicate, when to communicate, with whom to communicate. These are going to be something which are going to be considered as a critical aspect of your communications management plan. You want to go ahead and create a strategy of communication for yourself. And that strategy, that plan is supposed to consider facts like with whom you want to communicate. What's going to be the frequency of the communication? What's going to be there in the communication? You may also want to add, if possible, the template through which the communication is going to happen. There's no single method of communicating that works for everyone. Remember, the number of stakeholders are going to be huge, and every stakeholder is going to be different. The term, when I say stakeholder, the term in itself is very wide. Anyone who have something to gain or lose from your venture can be categorized under this definition of stakeholder. So a stakeholder can be vendors, suppliers, it can be other functional managers, it can be other process managers, other product managers. They all can be considered as stakeholders. So you cannot go ahead and follow a same set of communication with all of them, because just like their requirements, even their communication requirements are going to be different from each other. So what precisely is expected? Like, let's take an example. The finance manager is going to be more interested in the financial details about your venture. How much money you have spent so far? Where have you spent it? How much more do you need? That's what finance manager is going to be looking for. Human resource manager is probably going to be looking for how many more resources are needed. What is the utilization percentage of resources that are already being allocated to your project? So every stakeholder going to have a different requirement of communication, and you need to go ahead and manage that as per their requirement. The message is in the media. The next chunk of CDS is going to be the value stream. So value stream is, in simple words, if I have to go ahead and define the value stream, it is the service value chain elements with a defined sequence to deliver the product and service, which at the end of it delivers value to the stakeholders or to the customer. That's what value stream is. So value stream can be visualized as a journey through activities in the service value chain for specific scenario or type of demand. A value stream may involve many service value activities. A value stream can even loop around to carry out similar value chain activities. Now, when we talk about value chain, understand that all your processes that you follow, all that are supposed to be documented so that it gonna give you a clear view that yes, these are the activities, this is where the value is added, this is the amount of value that is being added. But when we talk about designing a new value stream, what are the things that you're supposed to go ahead and consider, or what are the factors that you need to go ahead and consider? So when we talk about developing a new value stream, things that you need to consider are: select the right perspective to document the value stream, start and endpoint needs to be clearly defined. So what's going to be the first step? What's going to be the last step? What's the amount of flexibility that's available? How detailed you want the value stream to be? So the level of granularity, the steps. There is no defined number of steps. Remember, like I said, every activity, every process is different. So number of steps going to be different, but there's supposed to be a defined sequence. Steps, right? You need to go ahead and find the steps, but at the same time, you also have to find the sequence of these steps. So the step order, map to the service value chain and map to the practices that we go ahead and cover. So consideration for designing a value stream model for development of a new service describes a common pattern. Now, this is generally, I'm not saying in your organization you have to go ahead and follow this approach. For example, When we go ahead and talk about designing a new service, this is normally the pattern that we go ahead and follow. Engage. This is where you go ahead and collect the requirements. Plan. Then design and transition. Obtain and build. This is where you go ahead and start the actual implementation. Deliver and support. Sorry, again, design and transition. Then deliver and support. This is where you're handing it over, or you're going ahead and preparing with the release management. Output of this entire value stream is going to be the product and service. This, practically speaking, is going to be the output. This helps the organization achieve the value. So remember, when we talk about the demand of these requirements, demand of the value, first things first, there is going to be variation. You will never see a situation wherein the demand for the value, demand for a service is going to be constant. Hence, it's going to be very important for someone who's managing the entire set of sequence of creating, developing, and delivering of services. For them, it's going to be very crucial to go ahead and prioritize the work. So if the demand is created when ideal capacity exists, so in a condition where you have the capacity, you have the resources available, and that's when the demand is coming up, go ahead. You don't need to prioritize, deliver. But for an organization, in a practical scenario, that's never going to happen. The reason why I say it's never going to happen is because your resources are always going to be limited. You will never be in a position where you can go ahead and say that, yes, the resources are unlimited. So for someone who's primarily involved in creation and delivery of services and products, you need to go ahead and make sure that what